Hey YouTube, it's Steve again, calling to make a video about, I'm going to a meetup group at Lakeshore Park today in a couple hours, and I was thinking about when I go about leading the group or presentation or however it's going to work out, I'm assuming there's going to be at least one person there who probably doesn't know what Tai Chi is, hasn't done Tai Chi, maybe they're with a friend, and the question they may not be asking but will absolutely have is, what is Tai Chi? And just thinking about the question, because Tai Chi is such a deep, rich, complex, I don't know what the word was, massive amount of information, like just to boil it down, it's like, and I was really like, I don't even know where to start. You write a book. But I was thinking about it and I was like, well, you might as well just start with the title Tai Chi and what Tai Chi is. And I did some research a while back, and Tai Chi is normally translated as the supreme ultimate, or that which there is no higher. Individually, Tai would be the greatest or supreme, but then Chi actually means pole, like you have the north or south pole that determines the four directions. It can also mean ridge pole, which, if you don't know what a ridge pole is, when you build a house, if you have a roof, the ridge pole is the pole that goes across that holds the other beams or poles together. So it's the binding force. And then if you say it's of which there's no higher, well, if you put a pole into the earth, it's higher than the ground. But if you say you put a pole on top of infinity, how does it go higher than infinity? And the answer is it doesn't. It's actually hanging. It hangs from the top of the universe. And the reason I know this is because when you first start training Tai Chi at the beginning, like, okay, so you have this massive amount of information. What's the beginning of beginnings? Because I'll probably need to know this for the meetup group. And the answer is, how do you stand? Because if you're building a house, the first thing you build is the foundation. So the stance would be the beginning. Before you move, you have to know where your feet are, I guess. And then the entire body, the body structure, like, was the next thing you build. You build the beams or the walls or things like that. And it's called, at least in my school, it's called Wu Chi stance. So the Chi and Wu Chi and the Chi and Tai Chi are the same word. It means a pole. Wu can roughly be translated as not or zero or nothing. There's going to be people that argue with me for that, but basically the general idea is no. So it's like no pole, which makes sense because if you start, where do you start from? You start from nothing. So if you're going to aspire to be the pole hanging from the infinity that of which there is no higher, because up goes up forever, and then, well, you start from the very bottom, which would be nothing. So you've got nothing pole, which is also pretty humbling. So, and just like the ultimate pole that hangs from the top of the universe being the sphere of what Tai Chi is, its term of influence that binds all things, it determines the direction of all things. The no pole will determine the direction, if you have one set up right, the direction you can move, which, like, Tai Chi can move in all directions, obviously, if it's the supreme pole. So your no pole should be able to move, at least, you can't go up or down. You can't fly, but you can move easily, instantly, in every direction relative to the ground, front, back, left, right, the four directions. And it does hang. In the classics, it talks about having like a thread gently suspending your head, and then having your body hang from the thread. So there's this drawing down, and that's the beginning. So if you have the drawing down, like, through your body, that creates that's the pulse, the Zhongding central equilibrium. It's perpendicular to the ground. It eventually doesn't have to stay perpendicular to the ground, but that's definitely where it starts. And then the better that is, the better other things can be. So your structure can really only be as good as your Zhongding is, and your root can only be as good as your structure is, and your softness or relaxation has to be on structure, because you don't have structure, you don't have anything to relax on. So all the way comes back down to that central equilibrium Zhongding, which is the pole. And then the question is, well, what does that hang from? And the answer is, it's the pole of your universe, which is just anything you can, Tai Chi goes in a sphere. So really you have a sphere around you, wherever that is your sphere of influence, and then you're the one hanging from that. So it's your space, your energy that you have absolute control of, with training over time. And then, of course, the question is, well, how good can your Zhongding get? And the answer is, the senior masters are still perfecting all these principles, including how well they have their zhongding. They're doing other things probably while doing that, but they're definitely doing that. So it always gets better. And the more, because like if you have a zhongding that's 99% perfect, but then you get it to 99.5% perfect, well, now you just double the quality of your zhongding. So these aren't diminishing returns. It's not like lifting weights or running, where your cardiovascular system or your muscles can get to a certain point and then you can get a little bit better, but you have to do a lot more work, and then you get older where you start losing it. Tai Chi was invented by elderly people for elderly people that no longer had the capabilities externally to combat their younger predecessors. They may have been great warriors before, but now they're like in their 80s and, they can walk a block, but you're not going to see them throwing a pretty hard punch anymore. And so they had to take inventory as far as what did they have that maybe young people didn't have. And part of their training when they were younger, they used Qigong or energy work to supplement their martial abilities. And then unlike, like I said, with muscle and cardiovascular and just general external physical things that have diminishing returns, energy work continuously without diminishing returns, sometimes exponentially depending on what you're training. And so who's better at Qigong just determines who's been training longer normally. And of course, them probably been training Qigong twice as long as some of these younger people have been alive, they have that advantage. Now the problem is, Qigong, up to that point, when whoever's thinking about this, because someone had to think about this to create Tai Chi, is that Qigong is a health practice. It's normally medical. I'm sure they develop ways, because if you have a scalpel, you can definitely stab someone with it. But as far as having a systemized way of a martial art form where you can go around using energy work for self-defense as a contained, like, complete system, at that point that hadn't been done yet. At least not for older people that, you take a punch, take a real punch and you're in your 90s, well, you're probably not getting back up. So how do you deal with that situation? If they're super fast and you're not moving very fast, how do you deal with that situation? It seems impossible, but they had Qigong at that point, been around thousands of years, probably before recorded history for the Chinese people. And so they had these things that they developed to do what Qigong did, but they just hadn't codified it in a way that could be like, okay, now we can use it to kick someone's ass. So Tai Chi, I think it was attributed to one person back in the 1300s, but really it probably took multiple, maybe hundreds of masters over a few generations to put all this stuff together. But however it came about, what you have now is you have a fighting style that is a subset of a body of knowledge that's so massive over such a long period of time. Like if you're going to go to a temple and just say you're going to study Qigong, that's like going to college and saying you're going to major in college. Like you just can't. This is not something you do. And then funneling all that in. And so now you've got every Tai Chi move is a Qigong move, but Tai Chi Qigong moves were developed to have basically every way the human body could move, stay in harmony with the energy, meridians or the external field, or however, complex the Qigong field. The Tai Chi moves don't only not interfere with that, probably like all external martial arts do, always or to some extent, but the energy amplifies the movement. So now they don't have to be strong. If they have good structure, they'll be stronger than the younger people because they aren't using their muscles at that point. And they don't have to be fast because with the heightened sensitivity of their mind state from the Qigong, what would be used to feel inside someone to help them, now they can use that for a sense of calm to understand what the other person is going to do before they do it. And then as they're doing it, they don't have to make as many adjustments because they're moving before the other person actually arrived in their space, their area, they're the ridgepole and they've got their sphere. And so as soon as the young person comes in their sphere, they have mastered the situation, both with timing and the experience gained over time with timing and positioning, so that, again, they don't have to be fast. And then the question is, well, how does this look? And then largely, Tai Chi, as far as the fighting style that is Tai Chi, is largely a lost art, because with the health side of Tai Chi, again, it inherited the supreme ability to heal as well as the supreme ability to destroy, because it's a subset, it's the child of Qigong, which is a health art. So it's got both sides. It's this new entity that can go either way. You have to know the martial side to heal well with Tai Chi. You have to know the health side to fight well with Tai Chi. And so they go as one, like the yin yang. And And that's really why it's called the Supreme Ultimate, because you can talk about the other internal arts like Bagua and Xingyi, but they don't have, if they have the healing properties of Tai Chi, I guarantee you it's not what Tai Chi can do. And then with the external fighting styles, they can't do anything to Tai Chi. If it's truly a Tai Chi master, external fighting styles are not going to help them. It's just going to, the aggressive muscle tension, looking forward, making adjustments to make the strong hit, all this stuff is just giving the Tai Chi master what it needs to just decimate them. And I know like people watching this video can be like, well, what does this look like? Why can't people do this? And you really, it takes, obviously the health side, another reason the health side is so popular is because you can get benefits from it just immediately. And then the martial side, you can get some benefits from it, but to use it against a person, a 9-year-old using it against a 20-year-old where the 9-year-old actually survives, that takes potentially decades of training. That just like Qigong, you slowly improve over the course of years and decades. That's Tai Chi being a form of Qigong. That's how the martial part of Tai Chi works. But, even if it's exponential, if you add 2% to something enough times, you're timesing it by 1 million after so period of time, because exponential growth isn't something that the mind really comprehends intuitively. And so that's why, it takes, because like with exponential growth from like year 1 to year 10, you grow so far, but then from year 10 to year 20, now you've grown like 100,000 times more than you grew from year 1 to year 10. I don't know if that's the number, but it gives you like the idea. And then why, you hear the legends of like masters that do these things, and like, why are they always old? Because of that, it's the exponential thing. And so, and they've already had this developed because the people creating this five-star already had the Qigong. So they didn't have to, like with me starting out with nothing, I've been doing it for almost 9 years, and I can do some pretty cool stuff, but it's going to be a lot longer. Now, if I had 50 years of Qigong under my belt at year 1, and then I started learning Tai Chi, well, I'd be a lot further along now than I was back then. So all these things gave them an advantage. Even the aggression of an attacker's mind allows them to be read more easily. And the ability to perceive things quickly does not diminish with age. And so they took advantage of that. Anyway, and what all these things come together, if you see someone fighting with these abilities, with the original Tai Chi abilities at that level, and it just looks like magic, and they're like, what are they doing? How are they doing this? And like, if you did death matches, nobody went up against a Tai Chi master in a death match, unless, because you could say another Tai Chi master would, but are they conflicting? Does Tai Chi conflict? What does it look like when two Tai Chi masters fight? Are they really fighting? And so it got that reputation. And so I forget exactly how it works, but some guy wrote a poem mentioning it one time about how it was the Supreme Ultimate, and just kind of caught on. And because it's really hard to conceive, because it's higher above everything else, it's like what could be, what could take advantage of the Tai Chi method, when the Tai Chi method basically matches and morphs and molds and folds to anything given to it. So how do you mold and form to that if it's already molding and folding to you? And then when it's softer and softer and better feeling and better perception, it just gets to a point where there's not a way to go about facing the Tai Chi master where you would even have a hope of doing anything against him. Now doesn't mean they're invincible. I know a story recently, actually, this was, or I think the second half of the 20th century, where a senior master of Wu style went up against several karate, either senior students or masters, and he was in his 80s or 90s, and they were young, and he defeated all of them, but then the next day he was in the hospital. So, people are still human, but it gives you the idea, how did an 80-year-old, how did it, what would that have looked like? So, anyway, and it gives you an idea when you start learning Tai Chi, you can start seeing it, you'd be like, oh, that's something that old people could use. Oh, that's why, if you're super aggressive as an old person, you might have a heart attack, and like things like that. It's like, oh, I thought calmness was just for good perception, but it has these other things too. Like relaxing's great when you're old and have no muscle. It's like, oh, and that's why there's no ground fighting in Tai Chi, because if an old person goes to the ground, they're probably not getting back up. And oh, that's why you train so well to stay rooted and heavy so you don't go to the ground, and just on and on and on. And it's like starts making sense now. And then the question becomes, are all these things just coincidences that help old people and actually end up being a fighting style like Tai Chi? Or is like Tai Chi something that like transcends, what a person is or what they can be, being young or old? And so Anyway, this is just some of the ideas that came about in my mind. But yeah, it starts with Wu Chi stance because it can get really overwhelming. Because I'm like, this meeting, like, how am I going to even start telling these people even a small percentage? I'm just going to go off on a tangent. No one's going to know what I'm talking about. So you just got to start at the beginning, which is just the foundation and good structure. So I think that's what we'll be doing, the Wu Chi stance, pull their own universe. Anyway, it's been going on 15 minutes. I hope people that don't know about Tai Chi, you can watch this and kind of get an idea of what it was and where it came from and that sort of thing, and the meaning of Tai Chi and that sort of thing. And again, I might not, historically, all the things I said might not be right. Like, example, Qigong might not have gone back beyond recorded history. but you get the idea. If it's thousands of years old versus beyond recorded history, like, everything else I'm telling you is going to be the same, pretty much. So don't take that stuff right. But the things I told you about, like the definition of the name and the way Tai Chi goes, like the things I told you about actually what Tai Chi is and what it does, those are true factual things. So anyway, okay, hope you guys take care. You can check me out if you want to at knoxvilleTaichi.com. My email is at steve@knoxvilletaichi.com if you have any questions. Thanks.